Yo, what's going on, guys? Havoc here, I'm back, and welcome to Clash of Clans Mythbusters. We're back at it again, busting some myths, or let's be real, glitches and random interactions that are too interesting to not talk about. But hey, if you got anything you want me to try, drop them down below for a future episode. Anyway, let's get right into it.
Let's do this.
Myth. If a Dragon Duke under an ice block activates the Rocket Backpack, he will have the damage immunity for the remainder of the spell's duration on the other side. Myth confirmed. It reminds me of that one glitch a while ago where the miners under an ice block would pop up out of the ground and keep attacking with the spell's damage reduction. That's exactly what's happening here. As you can see, the Dragon Duke that was under the ice block is basically immune to the monolith. It hits it 3 times and practically deals no damage until the spell effect wears out. However, how long he is under the spell effects depends entirely on where you activated his ability. Here, he was closer to the center, so he got to the other side with a lot of time left on that spell. However, if you do it from across the map, by the time he gets to the other side, the spell is almost gone, so the monolith only got 1 shot in this case. I'm not sure if this will ever be useful, but it's still very interesting. Myth. If a tornado trap pushes an Archer Queen into a wall, she can reach buildings behind it which were 1 tile further than her range. Myth busted. I tried multiple ways and the queen does not get closer, and it even looks like she's about to retarget, but then she just targets another wall. Classic Archer Queen. I also did do a little cheating here on the dev build to see if I can force her further into the wall with 2 tornado traps, but the results were the same. Those walls were doing their job, you know? The only likely scenario where the queen could reach something a tile farther than her range would be if she glitched into the wall. I've certainly seen heroes get stuck in walls before, but those were usually from like unrelated bugs and glitches that are already patched. Myth. If you tap on the Grand Builder in the Capital Peak while he's jumping over a wall, he'll do a waving animation while jumping in place, then disappear. Myth confirmed. Alright, I really wanted to know where he went, so I looked way too deep into this. But hey, I figured it out. You know how he goes to random buildings and says, When you tap on him while he's jumping a wall, he teleports to the next building that he was going to stop at. Sometimes that's nearby, and other times it could be half across the map. So yeah, even if you didn't care, now you know. Myth. Healers can't heal Ice Golems. Myth. Okay, I promise this is a lot more interesting than it seems, at least it was to me. So it may seem obvious that, of course, Ice Golems can be healed by healers. They prioritize certain troops and groups, but they'll heal any ground troop, right? Wrong. Healers will not heal a single Ice Golem. What's going on here? Well, apparently it's the same reason healers will not heal a single Barbarian, Archer, or Goblin. Anything with 2 housing space or less, she won't target at all, unless there is more than one of them. But aside from housing space, there is also something called healer weight, and in most cases, it's basically the same as housing space. However, in some cases, like Wallbreakers and the Ice Golem, it is not. The Ice Golem has the same healer weight as a Barbarian, and this was intentionally done so that healers do not prioritize Ice Golems, because, I mean, why would you want to heal them, you know? The only time it ignores this rule is when it locks onto 2 Ice Golems and 1 dies. Or, more hilariously, when it's near a group of Wallbreakers for whatever reason. But yeah, shout out to developer Petri for giving me some insight on all of this. Anyways, this could have either been a myth confirmed or busted, but as you can see, it depends. So it's half true and half right. Myth. If you only have 1 lightning spell and nothing else, and use it on a defensive building, it will play the stun animation. Myth confirmed. For some reason, it does, but why? Well, I can't tell you everything, I actually don't know, and I also don't know if this is specific to this scenario. But it is interesting because this stun animation is usually used for other interactions like a diggy stunning a building. But I've never seen it with a lightning spell, and the circumstances are weird. Like it has to be the only thing you have left. I think it might have something to do with because the defense received damage and it also is unable to attack after a match ends. Maybe the game is confusing it for a stun because that's exactly what happens when a diggy stuns it. I don't know, I'm just speculating. Someone who knows, definitely enlighten me in the comment section. Myth. Hogwarters and other wall jumping troops will still jump over walls under the Warden's heroic torch. Myth busted. To my understanding, the heroic torch essentially makes walls disappear temporarily. So basically, troops under the radius of the ability do not know the walls are there, they're ignored. That's why they're able to freely walk and it doesn't affect their pathing. Interestingly, this is not a troop that jumps, but this doesn't apply to the Root Rider's ability, as that is a passive ability that damages walls regardless if the Root Rider knows if they're there or not. The Root Rider doesn't even target walls, so she won't be affected by the ability. However, with the speed buff of the heroic torch, she will sometimes not break the wall at all because she's going too fast. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. Hogs will not jump over the walls because they are basically not there. Myth. A Dragon Duke with a rocket backpack activated will go to the corner of the base instead of the middle if used in the center of the base. Myth confirmed. I remember seeing a Reddit post a while ago asking this question, and the comments were all over the place. They did not know. And there was a recent glitch where he became invincible if placed in the middle for some reason. But bugs aside, essentially what happens is it acts like a giant arrow. Kinda. It doesn't matter which way he's facing, he will always go toward the center, so he'll turn around and go the way it thinks is the center, which is visible here in this dot. So if you drop him on the top, he'll go toward the bottom because that's the way to the center. Now, you can't place him exactly in the center. Even if it looks like it, you'll always be slightly off and he'll fly toward the center. And it's quite interesting because the description of the equipment says it dashes across the center, but in this case, he basically flies away from the center, at least it looks like it. Anyway, just one of those things that I really wanted to try. Myth. When switching between the builder base and the home village, some of the villagers will always be grouped in a cluster in the northern corner of the base. Myth confirmed. I'm not sure how I never noticed this, and I've been playing since 2013. Perhaps this is a fairly recent change. Maybe. I don't know. But yeah, the villagers in the home village always spawn in the top of the village every time you switch between villages. It's pretty strange, but I guess it makes sense. I don't know much about game development, but it's probably just resetting their spawn point. However, for some reason, it doesn't happen in every base. I tried in 3 different accounts on the same exact device, and of those 3, it only happened in 1. I'm not really sure what's going on here, but I'd say this is still confirmed. Myth. If you change the game's language to simplified or traditional Chinese, the skeleton spell will turn green instead of red. Myth busted. This brings me back to the days where people said if you switch your game's language, you find better loot. Talk about a myth, right? And for a minute there, 14-year-old me thought it was true. Anyway, although some Supercell games have some tiny differences between languages, Clash of Clans has always done it the region way, where it disables and enables features if it needs to in certain countries. But Chinese-specific changes were never a thing, at least in the global version. Those only appeared in the Chinese specific version that launched in February 2022. Myth. If you select a scenery, lower the music to 0, and switch to another scenery, the music of that scenery will play in the current scenery. Myth confirmed. I don't really know how you guys find these, but hey, you learn something new every day, and it works with any scenery. Honestly, I just wish Supercell would give this to us as a real option, you know, because some scenery music sucks and the visuals are amazing. Unfortunately though, it does fix itself when you do just about anything in the game, so unless you're chatting or staring at your base, it's nothing but a cool party trick. But yeah, those were the myths I got around to trying. It was a fun one, I love doing these, and hey, if you have any of your own myths or quirky mechanics you want me to try, definitely leave it down below and you can be featured in a future episode. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace!